attend those meetings that I invite you to. Also, I wanted to talk very quickly about transportation. State Route 189, Mariposa Road, will be breaking ground next year, and I'm hoping that that you encourage that, and that because it's very, very important for our future growth for the town of Sahuarita. Also, future growth on I-19. One of the things that I'm working on along with the Rural Caucus is actually to make I-19 3 lanes. I believe that the growth is going to address that, and I think we really need to work on that together. Also, I'd like to last thing I'd like to share is there's going to be future legislation, and hopefully I'll be the one introducing it, on fuel-efficient cars. That means more recharge stations along our rural roads. Thank you very much. I appreciate this opportunity. Mayor Murphy, Vice Mayor Egbert, members of the council, I appreciate this opportunity. Good evening.
Thank you. That's all the calls of the public cards I have. Does anybody else want to address the council? Seeing no movement, I will close the call to the public and move on to item number 7, which is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Consent agenda approved. Next, we move to manager and council brief summary of reports. Mr. Udall.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Because this is a special meeting, I have no report.
Great. Anybody else? I just had one thing. I attended the Sahuarita Winds meeting this morning, and as a group, Serenity First Prevention and Support Coalition. I'll be in Phoenix, unfortunately, this Saturday, but they're going to be having a free movie down at Desert Sky, marijuana effects on youth and the developing brain, and they just wanted to get the word out on that, so I just wanted to mention that. Nobody else? Thank you. Next is item number 9, Madam Clerk.
Discussion regarding filling the council member vacancies caused by the resignations of Lynn Skelton and Dahlia Zimmerman, and interviews of council member candidates Sergio Ariano, Kathleen Camp.
Interviews, we're basically having somewhat of a modified panel. In fact, this is a situation that is extremely important for the town. For future situations when we're hiring key and very important personnel that are going to be interviewed by the council and not by just simply this process. So I'm calling for a motion and for the council to approve the process that we are currently moving toward. That's just simply a council to affirm the understanding that this is the process that's going to be used.
And just to clarify, Mr. Lusk, what is the motion that this is the panel that we're going to be doing?
That is correct.
Okay. Well, I'll weigh in a little bit. This is. Oh, Dan, did you want to weigh in first?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Lusk, I think what you were looking for was a vote on what the process was going to be.
That is correct.
And the Mayor, I think you were about to ask the clerk to read that into the record. Perhaps she can read that into the record, and if someone wants to move that as the process, then you could do so.
Right. Thank you.
That'd be fine.
Madam Clerk.
So prior to the council meeting, each candidate drew a candidate number at random. This number determines the order in which the candidates will answer questions. For example, candidate number 1 will be the first candidate asked to respond to question number 1, after which the remaining candidates will be called to respond in candidate number order. Candidate number 2 will be asked question number 2 first, then the remaining candidates in candidate number order will be called upon to respond, with candidate number 1 answering the question last. This method of questioning and response will continue until all questions are asked. Candidates will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to answer each initial question. Candidates, if you hear an audible buzz, your time is up. Council members, you may ask follow-up questions of each candidate at the time the candidate responds to the initial question. At the conclusion of the initial 6 questions, council may choose to ask additional questions of all candidates.
Thank you. And at this time, I'll entertain a motion that.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? I would just like to say part of the reasoning that I thought this was a positive way. One is this is whoever gets selected, you'll be part of a group that will have to be working off of each other, as well as you all know that you'll potentially, hopefully, be running in a few months from there. And this is something that the forums are held, and in this way from there. So that was kind of my thinking when we set it up this way. So as you heard from the town clerk, everybody will have an opportunity to answer first and have an opportunity to answer last and something in the middle.
Mr. Mayor, and I might have missed it, was there a time, what is the time that they have to answer?
The time limit is 5 minutes.
Okay, just so that you guys are sure you've heard the 5 minutes that you have.
Absolutely. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Have we been assigned when council members will be asking us questions?
Madam Clerk,
Or is
did
it
you?
just gonna be one of those?
Well, we were thinking that I was probably going to be asking the first question, and then we would just be going in order around circle. And then again, as you heard, we have an opportunity to follow up on a particular question with somebody, and depending on the time. Also, I thought this was a little bit more time effective, that, we can, have more of a sort of conversation, and then if time allows, we'll be able to ask additional questions if any of the council members want to do that.
Since you asked for additional comments, the only other comment I would make is that normally a group like this should be interviewed individually for about 20 minutes, so that we understand the value of your qualifications and basically your interpretation of why you've applied for the job and what's important. And again, that is very important information to me as a selectee, is to know what you're thinking. And that is my reason for this request at this time. And thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes, opposed.
One nay. And welcome. And before I got to this, it'd be helpful if you would, and this isn't part of the first question, just go down the table, introduce yourselves, and, just a couple minutes on what you'd like us to know before we start the questioning. And we'll start with candidate number one.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Vice Mayor and esteemed council members. My name is Mary Teresa Moreno, but I've been known as Marty since I was little. So I've lived here since 1985. This town, before it became incorporated. I have my heart here. I believe in the families, the children, and the people that come to work here. I'd like to see us grow as effectively as we possibly can. According to census numbers, we will be, in the year 2025, we'll be hitting some really high numbers. So I believe we need to get ready for that and prepare a good, safe place to live. So, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Mr. Ariano.
Mayor Murphy, Vice Mayor Egbert, members of the council, and the town behind us. My name is Sergio Arellano. I've been a resident in the Madera Highlands community since 2007. I moved here after serving 11 years in the Army Infantry. Unfortunately, I couldn't continue because of things that happened while deployed. And so I was forced to get out of the military, came down here, started working at the Veterans Administration Center and advocating for veterans. Just fell in love with the place. Since then, I've moved on and helped.
I'd also like to thank the council and people behind me, our residents, for allowing each one of us to have an opportunity for you to get to know us this evening. So I thought about what are some traits that would make a good council person. I come from a background of working in federal government, in international communities, as well as local communities. And so the three traits about myself that I would like you to know is, number one, I'm a good listener. Also, I appreciate working with people who have differences of opinion. I feel like I'm able to help a group come to a consensus, even though we may not agree on the topics at hand. And then I have a vision for our town. I also agree with my two candidates here to the right.
Dropping down and taking some notes. We're actually listening more intently than I hope you realize, but you may see the top of our heads more than probably normally you would during a meeting. Please continue, Ms. Camp.
Good evening. My name is Kathleen Camp. Thank you to the mayor, the vice mayor, and council people, and the public for having us here. As Myra stated, I'm honored to be part of this panel. I have moved here with my husband back in 2010, officially by 2013, and just because I happen to be here for a ride for the cure. And in that moment, I actually discovered area south of Tucson, many golf courses, just a beautiful area. So what has pulled me to Saladita is the beauty of the town, the cleanliness, the people. So I didn't move here for a job, I'm now retired. And I would like to take my 27, 30 years of experience with city, county, airport, and expansion, and try the test with Saladita, because I love your plan for the district, and you've got a lot of great ideas, and I have to tell you, I'm really impressed. It takes a lot for me to be impressed with the work that has been done by all of you up to now. So I'd like to share in that and bring it forward sooner than later. So thank you again.
Thank you. Mr. Davis?
Okay, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, my name is Simon Davis. Actually been part of the community for 32 years now. The retired fire chief out of Green Valley. Obviously many years working with the town in that capacity as the fire chief. A lot of knowledge of the community. Obviously part of when the town was created back in '94. But have a lot of history. Have a lot of understanding of local government. I also do some lobbying at the state level and at the federal level. So I have a good understanding of what's happening on the political level. But also, you know, I have my wife's family is a private business with a company out of Tucson. So I understand both sides of what the government function is, but also, you know, what to protect the folks in the community, the businesses and things like that. And I think we'll lead into those questions later. But yeah, so that's kind of me, and I live out in Quail Creek right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dell?
Good evening. I appreciate the opportunity for the interview tonight. My name is Eric Dahl. My family and I have been living here in Saladita since 2009. I've been involved in local government basically my entire adult life as an employee for the most part. So I've seen the employee side of the decisions that you guys make. I'm really excited about the direction that the town is headed. I've spent the last few weeks going through all the previous agendas that you guys have had for the last 3 years just to see kind of what has happened. I couldn't find a lot that I disagree with, frankly. I like the direction that the town is headed. The Saria Square, all the different transportation projects that are coming up. I'm excited. So that's really what led me to put into this position. I don't do things halfway, so I'm ready to hit the ground running, and that's kind of the preparations I put into it. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for all those kind introductions. You're not making our jobs any easier, so we appreciate that. The first question I have is, what will the town look like in 5 years, and what is your vision for the town? And we'll start with Ms. Moreno.
Thank you. 5 years. 5 years goes by so quickly, and having experience out here watching it grow from a cow patty, basically, to what it is now, is something that is near and dear to my heart. I'd like to see the town, and I'm proud that the town is going in the direction of establishing nice places to walk, becoming a walkable community, hopefully, and our transportation. And what's drawn me to get back in the ring, I hope, is that we have a vision for our town that has to be expanded to everyone, not just one community or one housing development or one area. It has to incorporate the old and the new, and to embrace those changes and direction. That makes it a proud moment to say, I live in Saladita. That's important to me. Watching Little League and soccer every weekend this last semester taught me that children are our future. And if they feel good about where they live and how the adults treat them, we can't miss, we can't lose anything. We'll just continue to gain. Our economic growth is continuing at a good pace, and I'd like to see it even get better. I like the idea of the town center, and hopefully maybe we can work to getting a pool for the whole community. I don't know if I answered that right or not.
It's whatever you say is correct. Madam Clerk, how will they know they've hit 5 minutes? Because usually we use the lights over there, so I was just curious on if there's a warning sign, is it getting close, or just hitting the 5-minute mark?
If the candidates would like to look at the speaking podium over there, the lights are active.
Oh.
So when you have time, the light will be green. When you have 30 seconds left, the light will turn yellow, and you will hear an audible beep, buzz, and the light will turn red at the podium when your time is up. And just as a reminder, that time limit is 5 minutes.
Thank you.
So I can still continue with it?
Yeah, absolutely. Unless we had to reset.
When I asked myself what I would describe as my main goal for seeking a seat on council. And I looked at Webster's dictionary, and I looked at the word utopia. And utopia means that it's an ideally perfect place to socialize political and moral aspects. Then I looked at the word cornucopia. It's an overflowing store of abundance. And that's what I would like Saudi to be defined as. A cornucopia for all, not just a certain segment or age group, or because we do kiss a retirement community, we should embrace that because we can learn from everyone, all facets of our community, and make it one big, whole, happy place.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
because I interrupted with an interjection, I'll repeat the question. And if you need it to be repeated, because I know it can be a while for some of you, please ask to have it be repeated. What will the town look like in 5 years, and what is your vision for the town?
Well, in 5 years, things change really fast. I mean, if you look at cell phones, look how fast they came up. You know, now we're texting, can't live without them. I'm taking notes on a notepad. So, you know, things look fast, move fast, and with a city and town like ours, we got to be prepared. We got to be engaged, ready to put the boots on the ground required to make change happen that favors our residents and our town. And so in 5 years, I see us being a hub for technology out here. We need to attract more of that industry because that's what's in. Information system security, coding, everything that has to do with technology now revolves around our lives. And if we can kind of get a jump start on that, because it is going to be here, I think a more technologically friendly and industry friendly town will be in 5 years. I also look forward to adding more parks because we have lots of kids who like to play soccer and sports, and we got pickleball now, which has taken off. And so, you know, just more parks where we can fit them. And then 5 years down the road, I want to see our annexation plans come to life. I want to be ready for the growth that we're ready for. And I want to be able to help make that happen so that we can have more land to attract those jobs, that industry, and make it more friendly for people to be here. So in 5 years, it's not limited to that. I know there's more, but 5 years, that's a very good goal to get everything rolling, started, and hopefully on the path to a greater and more attractive Saudi.
Thank you. And do you need the question repeated?
No, I do not.
Okay.
So 5 years from now, well, currently we're in our 25th year anniversary. How exciting is that? And so in 5 years, we're going to be celebrating our 30th anniversary. And so what is that going to look like for us? Well, I think that we need to have a vision. And it takes more than just having a vision to get us there. We need revenue. And so my guiding principle is looking at the 2018 Citizen Survey. I think that gives us an idea of what our citizens are asking from us. It's a blueprint to get us where we want to be in 5 years. I wholeheartedly support the Sahuarita Town Square. I think that's where we need to move towards. It's going to take you and I here in government, our citizens, to become the ambassadors, to seek out funding to make this a reality. So that's part of my vision I have lots of ideas and lots of energy to get us there. And going back to that Sarita Square, oh yeah, that's where we need to put our energy. So I envision maybe we could have a culinary school. And with that culinary school, we could showcase some of our stakeholders here in our community. I was thinking about the Pecan Company. Wow, wouldn't that be neat to have them part of this culinary school? I think we need to make sure that we have an identity. And again, thinking of creative ways to raise those funds, to have the type of square that we have envisioned. So we ought to have our square up and running within 5 years. But again, it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a vision. I believe in stepping up and stepping in. That's what I've done my entire working career. And I'm no different today. So more about revenue. What would that town square do for us? Well, I thought about, what if we had a museum? So becoming that destination place is going to be important. We want an identity. I attended the Parks and Recreation meeting just a couple of years ago. Seems like that right now, but actually it was about 2 weeks ago. And Mr. Gonzalez, he shared with us some more about this town square. And what he said we need a place to showcase our rich history. So wouldn't that be wonderful if in 5 years from now we had a museum? We could showcase our rich history here. Again, we can invite stakeholders, maybe the mining companies to come in and have a piece of the action. We could showcase their history in our town, as well as our Native Americans here in our community. There's a lot we can do. We can become a destination city and bring in the much needed revenue to make our dreams come true. And again, just in closing, looking at what our citizens are asking of our government. 2018 survey, and also you and I being the ambassadors in our town and getting to know our residents and our people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Kim?
5 minutes might not be enough time. I envision that Sahuarita will be a household name. I'd like to see that people outside of the state of Arizona know that this is a place to convene. And if you don't have a place to gather, then how can you invite others to gather? So the district is an excellent idea. I envision hospitals being here. I hate to see cars driving up from Mexico and Nogales and our own people going to Oro Valley or to other parts of Tucson to receive medical care. That's coming, that's here. I'd like to see the district that offers not only a continuation of the biking trails from Tucson, but the cycling that is big here, the pickleball, the Madera Canyon, and all of the hiking opportunities, and getting in the middle of nowhere with trees, which is so unlike Arizona. People need to know about that. Coming down on I-19, that small, very beautiful sign that says, "Welcome to Sahuarita," you need to have a banner across I-19 saying, yeah, you found it, this is Sahuarita. I envision higher learning. Why not keep those young, brilliant people coming out of our great schools and put them into some higher learning education here in our own community? Having stores and restaurants, we certainly have pulled in a lot of fast food restaurants, and I love the standards that Sahuarita has put into place to demonstrate a similarity and a theme through town. But now, let's go after those mom and pop shops, some breweries, some, bakeries with those big gooey, tasty things to eat. But I want Sahuarita to be that town that everybody is reading about that wants to come here because it's inviting. And right now it is. I think I have walked or cycled every street in this town. And honestly, the pride and ownership in this town is amazing. And that's both Green Valley and Saladita. And that's another thing. Green Valley and Saladita, I believe, should be partnered together. It is the population of the region that's going to make a difference for technology and for businesses to come see us and to participate in the growth. Of course, at Raytheon, they have thousands of small businesses that are participating in their development of the missile systems. Why not have some of those small companies come down here where transportation costs, distribution costs are far less than other areas that are in California, other towns that are far more expensive. So at the end of the day, I see a ton of things that we could do and we can do, and it's important, the revenue source. We want people to help build that tax base that we have, and we can do that because you're successfully doing it right now at a wonderful pace. I just want us to get there as soon as we can. I hear too many people that say, you know, I'd participate, but it won't be during my lifetime. We can turn that around and get more people by informing, educating, and involving them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Davis?
Yeah, thank you, Sam. I think, you know, the vision for the next 5 years is certainly the town square issue. Is vital to the identity of the community. Having the town establish the infrastructure will then bring private partners in to expand that and obviously make it a destination place. I think is critical. The other thing in the 5-year period is, and I know the tech park is slowly going to come out of the ground, I think it's vital to start keeping jobs in Sarita as opposed to everybody getting in the cars and driving to Tucson. And again, make Sarita a destination where people want to stay here, start getting good paying jobs. The tech park builds up, and then that brings other businesses down here. I think with Raytheon on the south part of Tucson, there's a lot of opportunity there, and this is the perfect location. Great living, cooler than Tucson. And just all around a nicer community. So I see, to me, you know, 5 years is somewhat a short term, but getting the district up and running, getting the tech park going. And then a couple other things is getting a handle on these travel corridors. You know, we saw in the last couple of months the uproar might not be the right words with the I-11, but certainly a lot of people turned up for it. But it's obviously need to be a player at the table. That decision is a long time down the road, but making sure the town is in at the ground level, I think, is critical to what's happening on that. The other thing, the I-10 bypass. You know, that has a significant impact economically on the town, opening up a lot of land for commercial development. I think that's critical. And just keeping, you know, I think we've seen that there are certainly towns around the state that have done things right and some have done things seriously wrong. And it's identifying that and keeping that as part of this 5-year plan. So my vision is to keep the residents in Sarita, you know, to live here, to work here, to invest in the community as opposed to going up the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bell?
Well, I think I'm going to sound like a stuck record, but Sarita Square obviously is the biggest thing that I think is coming. One of the things that I put in my application is I feel like most communities are a community of neighborhoods, and Sarita oftentimes seems like it's a community of communities. And I live in Rancho, and they developed it that way for a reason, because we feel like everything we need is there. But then when you try to tie all these different parts of the community into one, which doesn't seem like it works very well, I think Sarita Square is a good opportunity to create something that's not Rancho, it's not Quail Creek, it's not Madera Highlands, it's Sarita, that everybody can go to. I would think in 5 years that would be well up and running. The Quill Crossing extension should be done certainly by then. I think that's going to be a huge opportunity. It'll be convenient, obviously, for the people that live on the southern end of town to get to where the businesses are at and I-19, but I think that area is right for commercial development. Once that thing is done, I would expect that everything that's going on by Abrego and that would continue south. Snaptech should be up and running by then. I would think that we would see some returns from that. As was mentioned, the Sonoran corridor is going to be huge. I think, that ties into the CCAP plan. Some of what was mentioned is all these plans that we have are long-term, and I read that stuff and I get excited, and I think it's probably going to be 20 years before that comes. So some of that we can maybe push a little bit forward, but certainly we need to keep in the planning of that. The CCAP plan is huge. There's a lot of things to it. If the Sonoran corridor goes through there like it's planned to, like we've asked it to, I think that would be a huge boost to that economic development.
Thank you.
All right, I'm taking question number 2.
Taking question number 2, and we're going to be starting with candidate 2.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Can I ask, Ms. Camp, do you want to bring your microphone a little bit closer when you speak? You were just a little bit softer, and I'd hate for you to not be able to be heard by everybody.
Yes?
Yep.
Yeah, that's better. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so starting with Sergio.
Yes.
Okay, what role should the town play in economic development?
Well, I think the biggest role, that's why you have an economic development director here. And Victor's done an outstanding job for you guys. I've known Victor for many years, as a matter of fact, from back in Douglas. So I know he's doing a great job for you guys. And I think we should play a very, very big role, especially because you guys are the face of the community. And it falls on the council to go out there and attract what has to be implemented here. And so, we talked about a couple things here of our vision in 5 years and so on and so forth. But for the, tech park, which breaks ground, I believe, in a week or so, or else we lose out on the grant. We have to play a big role with that in economic development so that we can invite the president, the vice president, the executive director of the AV Tech Council, who I've worked with in the past. They bring a lot of self-starters and entrepreneurs into Arizona, and we have to have an active role. So does that answer? I hope that answers the question of the role of us in economic development.
Okay. All right. Ms. McKeon?
Okay, so we each play a role, and an active role in our government, and we're all a part of the government here, and we are the ambassadors. If we want to see a vision come true, if we want to have the things that our citizens are asking us for, then all of the town personnel are ambassadors. When we go out into the community, when we go out into the broader community, when we interface with different groups, it might be from Tucson, it might be at the state level, it might be at the national level, but we can get the funds that we need. We can acquire the grants. So our vision in 5 years can actually become a reality. And that takes each and every one of us here in government. So I do agree, our government plays a large role in our economic development. You and I hope that to be sitting and working with you as far as the town council, you're the ones who set the policies, the procedures. You to help to develop the ordinances in which future business owners are going to come here, whether the businesses be large or small. What you and I do today matters. We each play a role. Thank you.
Ms. Camp, do you need it reread, or you? Thank you. Okay.
The role that the town plays in economic development is huge. The town has already created 1 or 2 plans. The most recent fire, the one that fired in 2035, lays out what your vision is, lays out what your goals are, and economic development needs to work hand in hand with that to make sure that both are in alignment. Again, collaboratively. You want to see the inform, educate, and involve the public. You have to involve the public because you can't expect people to respond to something that they don't have enough knowledge of or don't agree with. So giving them an opportunity to see what your plans are, to have discussion of those plans and hear the pros and cons of all of those ideas. I'm all for public outreach because people formulate their own opinions, and many of them are incorrect based on hearsay, neighbors, those people who don't get out. Economic development has the primary role of getting those fingers out, setting up partnerships with private and public sector, seeing what other towns are doing, seeing what other cities are doing that they want to potentially mimic. How to be successful takes a lot of people to make it happen. At the end of the day, economic development is an organization or body of people whose primary role is to go out and follow up with plan of people and the mayor and the council and make it a success. Okay. Mr. Davis, any repeat or you done?
Yeah, no, that's not fun. No, I think the role that the town plays in the economic development, it's a catalyst. It's what's going to drive things to move forward. I think the town square is a classic case of that. The town puts the infrastructure in, and then hopefully development and businesses will come down and start building on that, and obviously bringing in jobs and the facilities that the community wants. The flip side of it is I think the town has to be careful it doesn't create bureaucracy and stifle that growth through ordinances and things like that. And it's a fine balance. Obviously we have residents, require standards and want things done right. But I think it's critically important to not stifle small businesses from starting up, from folks coming down here and wanting their businesses to succeed. And that's where the town becomes a catalyst to making sure it's doing everything possible for these developments to succeed, which then obviously generates revenue to the town, and the town can continue to grow and do a lot of these great ideas that are out there. So I think that's a critical function. So that's, to me, the town is a catalyst. It has the resources available to go out and seek developers, go out and seek businesses, and then through grants, through incentives, to try and get those folks to come in.
Okay, Mr. Bell.
So I think the biggest thing is the town needs to help recruit businesses to come here and sell the community. And businesses are going to want to go to where they're going to make money, but they may not know about Sahuarita. They may not know about Sahuarita Square. They may not know about different areas of Sahuarita. We fall in the shadow of Tucson a lot of times, so we need to set ourselves apart and be different. So short-term planning, long-term planning, trying to get the right businesses into the right area. In the resident survey, one of the things that they said about the Sahuarita Square was everybody wants more restaurants. Like top 3 choices were dinner restaurants, lunch restaurants, breakfast restaurants. People want to eat. So we need to get those types of businesses into that area. So that's something that the economic development people can do is try to tailor that. Maybe different parts of town are different are better for different businesses. Our economic development people would know that and can kind of help steer that into the right place. We have BizHub here. I think that's great. It's an opportunity that the town, has some knowledge that they can provide that help to small businesses. That's something I didn't even know we had until I was reading all the agendas. So I've learned a lot in the last couple of weeks. But hopefully the business community knows we have that. It is definitely a benefit to them. But I think really the town's role is just to kind of oversee it, sell the community, and try to guide the right things into the right place.
And Ms. Moreno.
What I see the town's role for economic development is believing in the Sahuarita East Conceptual Plan. Looking at annexation, and we use annexation as a tool to increase tax revenue, and that's something we need to look at for our future. 2035 statement said Sahuarita will be a place of distinct high quality of life. And we can do that by realizing that we have a gift in our future. We have, if we were to go out east and follow that plan, future plan. I won't be around in 2035, but we will have the corner of Wilmot and Sahuarita Road. I drove that recently, and all of the prisons that are out there, the police and fire training, and it's calling people to move here. And if you go out Santa Rita Road all the way out, those homes out there are like 230,000 to 440,000. And so who lives there? We want to be part of Sahuarita. And that's important to me, it is, and I feel that's the role that the town should play in economic development. It's all connected. Looking at solar companies, light distribution centers, schools, extensive schools like you said about a culinary or the high tech. We use our phones, we use the kids nowadays. I was talking to a kindergarten teacher the other day, and our children are coming in, our kindergarten kids are coming in without this muscle because they're not using Play-Doh, they're not coloring, but they're very good at doing that at kindergarten. So we need to look at that and take that into consideration, that we need to look beyond in the future and be strong. Look at our guidelines, listen to our people, our residents, knit our community together. Yes, we kiss Green Valley, but Cracker Barrel won't even come out here unless we have their rooftop numbers. So, you know, that would make a great partnership, but that's not on the topic today. But, you know, we need to look at the future and really define and understand our definition of what we see in our community and what our people are looking for. And our children, our high school kids at Walden Grove, they got it together. Some of them are studying Mandarin. They always talk about China and the eastern part of our world. We're going to be knitted together before we know it. If it's not, well, it will be economic. We really need to look at that. It's in the newspapers, it's part of our world, and our children will be the benefit of the decisions that are made here to provide a good economic base going forward and for every one of us, old, young, you and I. So I think the role of the council needs to keep that in mind about partnering up and looking at economic development as a base of our future, a strong base.
Thank you. And we'll probably move to, if it's okay with everybody, Councilman Rocco. We'll just kind of do a circle, and we'll get on question number 3, starting with Ms. McKinney.
Hi. How would you address local and regional transportation infrastructure over the next 5 years, including I-11 and the Sonora Corridor?
I think that's where we continue to partnership with the town of Tucson. We can't do this by ourselves. And so making sure that we're in on those discussions about the future and the present of our infrastructure and our transportation needs. I like our town, again, our town square concept of linking our communities together. And I think a good plan may be to look at smart growth. So smart growth is some principle that was created by the Environmental Protection Agency. And actually we follow some of those principles. But it has to do with transportation. How are we linking our communities together? And how we do that is making sure that we are in discussions with those communities around us. Again, we can't be just a Sahuarita by ourselves. As we continue to grow, it's going to be very important. So I would say we need to make sure that we have a presence in the communities around us and that we continue to develop our plan for rapid growth. Thank you.
Could you please repeat the question?
Sure. How would you address the local regional transportation infrastructure over the next 5 years, including I-11 and the Sonoran Corridor?
How I would address the issue of transportation and our needs into the future, I certainly get with all local and state officials, ADOT and other agencies that are in control of any grants and any additional money that are available for expansion of a town. Again, I would get with the community to see what is important to them. We have a lot of roads that are primary roads right now that are being expanded and certainly have been laid out for the anticipated growth that we have here. I-19, I would love to see us expand that. That is your primary corridor between Mexico and Canada. It doesn't make sense that all of these people that we are going to draw to Sahuarita have to come down a 2-lane highway on I-19. It should be 3 lanes all the way down. So I was happy to hear our representative speaking to those terms. As far as an I-11, again, if it makes sense to create a bypass on the south side of town, then let's talk about it. Let's talk about the impacts. The good thing on something such as that, it's going to take 5 to 10 years to probably even discuss that. And in that time period, you can do a lot of planning on access points. You really want to make sure that any roadways coming into Sahuarita are those that are going to bring people past those areas that we want them to see and communities that we live in. So everything is about free access, easy access, good roads. I'm really, I've had a lot of experience in going after and seeking money. I don't know if you're aware, in airport expansion, yes, I do it at home in retirement as well. But in airport expansion, most airports across the U.S. are used, or they're developed by an enterprise fund. That enterprise fund is not taxpayer dollars. Those dollars all come from anybody who is on the airport property, from the airlines to the tenants to the aviation businesses. All of them have a say in what the airport is doing, and the expansion in the roadways and the access where they're airways or roadways is critical. I'd also like to throw in that signage is really important. Signage helps people be directed to the correct places, and I think that's a consideration even now. We can prepare for some of these things in advance of future roadways, but certainly having those conversations that will help fund some of this transportation and get us to where we need so that we can say, yeah, let's come right through Sahuarita because we're ready, we're prepared.
Okay. Well, I think keeping it to, the local infrastructure over the next 5 years, I think it's critical to keep the existing streets in good repair. The cost, and certainly I think Tucson's experience is when you let the street go, it costs significantly more money. I think it also reflects on the community. If you have quality roads, a lot less potholes than usual, a good traffic flow, it's an attractive thing for the community. I think also increasing bike paths. We have a very active community, keeping the bike paths as where and when necessary. Looking at the Quail Creek extension, I think that's critical from a economic standpoint. I think when you start getting into the bigger issues, the I-19, I-10 bypass, that has some, I think, significant economic benefits to the community. There's going to be a lot of people at the table. There's a lot of interest in that. I think just because it does open up the east side of Sahuarita. So it's obviously maintaining a seat at the table and being an active player in what that final decision is made, which I think will come up probably in the next 5 years. The I-11, I think that's outside the 5-year scope. I think the environmental impacts and things like that are going to take a lot longer. So that can be the last thing on. But I think it's critical that, if we keep the local infrastructure, the local roadways up, that's what people see every day. I think that's a direct reflection on the town. So that, I guess, my input on that is to maintain. I think the town's done a great job over the last couple of years when the economy came back in it, and I think has prioritized investing in the transportation around here. I think that's a very positive thing, and that's what I'd certainly like to see continue.
So I think the biggest thing that we can do, I mean, if I were on the council, it would be mostly to encourage town staff to advocate for us, and I think they've done a pretty good job of that. The Sonoran Corridor is a good example. When that first came out, they were planning on putting it at Pima Mine Road or even north, which would completely bypass the town. I think we would completely lose out on significant opportunities for development. And they've advocated for our position, and they've now moved that. 2 of the 3 options that are left are El Toro Road, south of there, that come right through the CCAP area. So we need to, as a council, plan for that and then make sure that town staff are aware of what we want and what we're looking for. In terms of local roads, the pavement preservation plan that the town's been doing for years, I think is great. That was another one of those things that I thought of that, boy, this would be good. And then I read all the agenda minutes and watched the presentations, and they've been doing that for years, and they actually have a really good handle on it. Like they said, the I-11 project, the Tier 2 study is going to take forever. So it's important to keep, a finger on the pulse of that so it doesn't pass us by. But certainly it's not going to be the major priority. And I was impressed with what Representative Gobelbaum said. I-19 needs to be 3 lanes, probably sooner rather than later. So I'd like to see that. I mean, anything that we can do to push that, I think, would be beneficial to all of us.
I think it's very, very important that the town council remain and have a strong, forceful seat on the RTA, which is the Regional Transportation Authority. And we encourage our citizens to fill up their gas tanks here in Sahuarita for fuel, because we get fuel taxes for that. And HERF funds, the Highway User Revenue Funds, to become very familiar with that. And should we annex to the east and the bypass goes through, that corner of Wilmot and Sahuarita Road would be very profitable for us as far as increasing our revenues for our roads with possible truck stop. I know a lot of people have a negative idea or perception of truck stops, but they do bring in economic development around them also with food places and hotel possibly for those truckers. It's very important. And we do benefit by that. And the trucks that come in from Mexico, that's not going to stop. We need their vegetables. We need the products that they bring in by trucks. And so our roads have to be maintained. And we have a strong seat at the RTA. We should continue to profit in all areas from that. So I would really strongly suggest that the Sahuarita Town Council would have a very strong person representing Sahuarita and speaking for them, put us on the map, because we are on the map and will continue to be on the map. So, that's it.
Transportation, I love it. That's one of my favorite things out here. I served on the Pima County Transportation Advisory Committee as an appointee for Supervisor Steve Christie. And as his district director in Green Valley, I also work very closely with the outliers of not only the town of Sahuarita, but also Pima County and Green Valley in getting them their roads repaired because of the lack of maintenance. And so Sahuarita is in good shape now. But when it comes to the current infrastructure, we have to be looking on how to add revenues in order to maintain our roads. The average lifespan in Pima County for roads is between 10 and 15 years. And I'm pretty sure that we're beyond a lot of, and these roads were beyond a lot of that. We've been doing a good job, but it also costs more money as time goes on. So we have to be very cognizant of how to find a funding mechanism to maintain our roads. You don't want to, I love Pima County, but you don't want to follow that example when it comes to maintaining the roads. Strong presence on the RTA. Thank you, Marta. Strong presence on the RTA is also necessary, and I know that the council already has a representative that attends those meetings and takes our vision forward. And then when it comes to the transportation and the I-11 and the Sonoran corridor, we just gotta make sure that we're at the forefront along with that. I-11, like a lot of my the people applying here today, I'll call you guys colleagues today. Like a lot of the people up here, it's a little further down the road, environmental impacts, we just got to be very cognizant of who's affected, who's displaced. But at the end of the day, you need someone that also knows the roads on the council, and I feel I'm one of those people. So thank you.
Next, we move to question number 4, and that will be Council Member Lust that will be asking that question, and we'll be starting with Ms. Campbell.
Kathleen, this is going to be a very difficult question. So I would expect you to do exceptionally well. Should the Animal League of Green Valley be recalled the Sahuarita Green Valley, so Sahuarita Animal Control Center? Should that be done?
Is that the question?
No, but I thought that.
Good response.
We just need to have a little bit of lightness in here at times.
Thank you.
I'm not going to put it in the context it's written, but let me put it this way. When you come onto the council, you are going to be dealing with a lot of complex and controversial issues, both from within the council itself, from within the staff of the town, and from the residents of the town. And those are not always easy to resolve. They're not always easy to come to grips with. We always like to think we can come to consensus. So how would you come to consensus on major issues that are in conflict?
Well, first of all, I can be very persuasive. How I would come to consensus, first of all, it's good to know all the facts and have all the people involved. So I would have anyone who has contributed to that conversation sitting in the room with you to talk about the pros and the cons and weighing them all out, and again, seeing if that aligns with your overall plan. There's always going to be conflict. You're never going to make everyone happy, but I can tell you, if you talk about it in a reasonable and respectful manner, you can come to some consensus. As a council member, I would expect that there are topics I'm not going to agree with and may not vote in the right manner, but that's okay. I'm not always going to be right, and I don't expect that. But I understand that a final person makes that final call, and I'm going to be supportive of that. So I have, in all of my years of work, I've had more conflicts than you would probably want to know. And in the airport business, probably expansion, eminent domain, and turning people's lives upside down creates a lot of conflict, not only with the council, but your community. And it takes getting out there and talking with the people, talking with the council, and ironing out your differences and finding some inroads and positive ways to come about solving a problem.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'm going to cause some stir. I think this question can be very easily identified as a buzzword type of conversation. Can I tack on to this, if it's okay, to describe a time that you have been involved with a controversial topic and how you resolved it? I'd like to hear specific, or describe a time in your life. We don't care what it is and what you share, but if we can give her a few more minutes, like a few, I don't know, time-wise, she's checking probably, but, and then the rest of the candidates to add that. Counselor, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
An example of a time that I was potentially in conflict, I would say is my job with Charlotte Douglas Airport. I will tell you that I was so excited about taking on a new role and new responsibilities when I got to the airport. What I didn't know was what the inner culture was of the leadership for the airport. And at that time, it was very hateful and very cynical, and people responded to this because the leader at that time was led by fear. And, you know, I didn't know, I was kind of shocked coming from progressive Las Vegas McCarran Airport and going into the Charlotte Airport where people weren't collaborative, they didn't have discussions, they pretty much said, this is what we're doing and there will be no discussion. That's quite an environment to live in. But it only took one time for someone to say something in a public forum that represented us in the Department of Aviation in the wrong way. And I waited for the session to end, and I had a conversation with the airport director at that time. And it didn't matter that it could have lost me my job under certain circumstances, certainly. But what was important is it doesn't matter where you are and what role you're playing. You need to be respectful. You need to be mindful that people have opinions. They can share them. They can talk about them. And I don't think anybody in the history of that airport has ever said something to the director. And I will tell you, from that time forward, he never spoke to me or another person in my presence in that manner. Now, I know that he continued to be like that, but I think I broke the ice and the conflict that had been sitting there for years, which explained the turnover. It explained why people weren't coming forward with any ideas. It explained why people were just miserable coming to work every day. And it was such a wonderful environment to be in because there was so much going on during that time. So I feel I had a pretty big hand in laying out some basic ground rules on how we should all talk and discuss and come to consensus versus the role of fear. Thank you.
Actually, the first part of the question, I think, I'll answer that one. I think it's important for the council staff, because everybody kind of stays in their lane. I think the council as such is sets policy, approves policy, and things like that for the town. The town staff are the ones that bring those suggestions forward. And I think ensuring a very positive and open communication between the council and the staff will get over a lot of the issues. And I think it's the town staff job is to be able to present a package that is understandable, has all the aspects put in there, all the issues put in there, to avoid some of the issues or the problems that could arise. Now, certainly there's going to be cases where, you know, as a council member or as a member of the public, there's pet projects that want to be taken care of, and that's where emotions can get enraged. And I think, again, keeping open communication, respectful, is the critical part of local government. I think it's probably the true form of government, is local government. You're dealing directly with the issue. We don't have all this bureaucracy. And so I think that's a good thing, and I think that's what needs to be continued. To give you a specific example, and I'll use this particular Sarita one, was as the fire chief for the Green Valley Fire District, we were attempting to put a fire station in Sarita. And obviously the two hardest things are opening the fire station and closing the fire station. In this case, we were trying to open the fire station out on Lucky Nada. And the community, a large number of the community wanted the station for response times. A large portion of the community, the other half of the community didn't want it. And so navigating those issues, attempting communication, and quite frankly, it got fairly hostile. The property we were looking at, the home, the property owner was getting called into things. And so called into question why he was doing things like that. And so from my standpoint, it was attempting to keep the peace, attempting to communicate, and lay it all out. The end result was we didn't put the station in, the local community didn't want it, which is fine. I think you have to work through the process, be respectful. I think that's critical, and get all the facts. That's the other thing. There's a lot of facts, and usually you can find your way through the issue. But again, it's that respect, listening, and then moving forward. I think not letting something drag on. Come to that decision and move forward. Good at that.
So I think the biggest thing is you have to go into any situation and just be open-minded. My philosophy, the way I kind of run my life, I'm a quiet guy. I listen more, talk less. My job has prepared me for this kind of thing, and I've been a police officer my entire adult life, over 25 years. In the last 9, I run a unit at the Department of Corrections, so we investigate any crimes that happen within the prisons. It's, as you can imagine, not a pretty place. What I've learned through investigation is that you gather information, you figure out what's true, because most of the time you get a lot of information that's either flat out lies or it's somebody's misperception of something. And then you research it, and you go where the evidence takes you. That's the way we do investigations. So even though I might think I know how it's going to end up, by the time I'm done, you follow the evidence, and you end up somewhere else. I try to avoid rhetoric. People can say all day that the sky is falling or that everything's great, but until you show me proof of that, I'm not necessarily going to believe it. So in terms of examples of times that this has happened, I'm in a unique position at work because the warden runs the prison. They're in charge of everything except for me. I'm the senior person in my unit. My bosses are all in Phoenix. And so there's a lot of times where what they want to do is in conflict with what we need to do. So I've learned the hard way sometimes. I've tried to kind of push my way around a little bit. Sometimes it works, but then it usually creates hard feelings. I've learned that sitting down with them and explaining, like, this is what needs to happen and here's why, and I can meet you halfway. If you want to go into a crime scene and take pictures, you can, but I can maybe take a picture to show you if you need to have it for some reason. Those kind of things, done in a way that doesn't bruise egos, usually is something that you can work through and everybody can get over it.
Vice Mayor Egbert, you asked for a specific example. I will give you one. My 50-year marriage.
This is on TV now, be careful.
In 1984, I was a city girl. My husband was a make-believe cowboy. He said, I want to move to Sahuarita. Population was 1,009 people. Getting to a store is 20 miles away. Said, no way. But we discussed it, we argued, and we compromised. And I believe that's the pattern that we all need to use. You open your ears and your eyes, and you dig deep to find a compromise, something that you can agree on. And you can move forward. And that's how we did it. And I tried to apply that in everything that I've done so far. I got to love Sahuarita. I learned some of the history, asked my neighbors who had been here since the 1940s and 1930s, what has changed, and the stories that they had ingrained that history in me to want to make it better. And when you give people roots or share those roots, you take that pride with you, and you're able to discuss, argue, and compromise. And I think I'm pretty good at that. Thank you.
Well, conflict, look no further than education. On the school board, everybody, you have Red for Ed showing up, the teacher walkouts, and, you have to be willing to do what's best. I would like to echo what Marty said, and the whole concept of listening, agree to disagree. and then, come to a consensus is key. Everybody has a vision, everybody has an opinion, everybody has constituents, and they have to do the will of the constituents. And so while you're out there, when I'm knocking on the door running for re-election, it's going to be, listening to what the community wants. And you take that and you apply it in your team as a group. Everything you know, you apply it to what they know, and hopefully you come to a consensus and an agreement. Conflicting example, Ms. Vice Mayor, I'm going to tell a quick war story. 2003, Ramadi, Iraq, we're going on to Fallujah, and everything's hot. There's explosions everywhere, gunfire everywhere, and not to draw it all out, you either went left or you went right. I wanted to go left, the other sergeant wanted to go right, and we almost came to fists because I felt my way was safest, he felt his way was safest. So we just stayed there, and while everybody else is advancing, we're there, we're stuck, we know we have to do something. So, in anger, we pulled out the map, and we found that there's a third way around. And so, it allowed us to get safely to our destination and provide the support we needed. But we were able to keep a cool head even though emotions were swirling. And I think that's a good example of a conflict that was resolved and had great results. So, thank you.
Coming to a consensus. I think first of all, building good working relationships goes a long way. Developing trust, and then having a listening attitude. So I sat here as I listened to my colleagues, and I mirror many of what their comments have been. Listening, and I thought about the nursing process. It's helped me in my career, and it's helped me in different conflicts that I've been involved in. And so what is the nursing process? Well, this is it. First of all, you do an assessment. Then you make a diagnosis of the situation. And then you come up with a strategic plan. And then from there, you evaluate. So I had an instance. I was the officer in charge of a medical mission to Panama. And unfortunately, what happened right before we were to provide the medical services to the community, we didn't have all of our necessary equipment. So my superiors back in Washington, they were saying, "Commander, just make it happen." The Ministry of Health in Panama was saying, "Myra, your government has promised all of these services. What are you going to do about it?" The leaders of 3 communities were up in arms, lots of emotion. So, is the United States not going to follow through with what they've said? We're allowing them to come into our communities and provide health care? Really? So I had to use my nursing process to get through that conflict. And it ended up being okay. But it took building trust and then coming up with a plan, and the mission did not have to be canceled. And we were able to provide a modified service to the people of Panama. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we move on to the next question, Mr. Dahl, I just want to do one little follow-up. With all your years in police service, and as you probably realize, our biggest department, personnel-wise in the town, is our police department. And, we think of ourselves as policymakers and, staff hearing it out. Do you think you'll have any difficulties, coming so recently from that world, and when police matters or things come to our attention?
No, certainly, like I said, I'm supportive of the police department. The department that I came from in Wisconsin, the city was about the same population, but our department was probably 2/3 of the size of Sarita. So I love what our department does. But I've been in various positions. When I was a supervisor now, I was a supervisor when I was at the police department. I was involved in the union, which we ended up having to deal with, officers who, had issues, disciplinary issues, so I don't have any issues putting, my law enforcement past the record behind me doing anything like that.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Do I recommend giving these guys a 5-minute break?
Absolutely.
It's an hour and a half in.
I didn't realize it was an hour and a half, and I apologize. So, before we go to the next question, let's take a break, and, does everybody know where the bathrooms are? Yeah. Yeah. Does anybody need water? Yeah.
Anybody else want to walk? Would you like to follow water?
Yes.
Ladies, here.
I'm done for the day. They were working when I left. Done for the week, so, yeah, our audit, we got chosen this year. We didn't have more, I think, 2000. We have a lot of work, so, pretty easy though. Yeah, we're slow. Well, and then, finished going through my files. They went through the closeout today for finance and checking their process, their interviews. I think they have interviews individually on Monday. In between hearings, we got this on. Right. Yeah. They're tired now. Rose and Grace came in Saturday. I know that we're coming in like it's not as it is. It's not going to shrink, Police force not going to shrink. Town is not going to shrink. We're only going to get bigger. My mandate is happening. Oh, yeah? Coming do what? Try to catch up. We saw Grace, I got in this morning and I saw her 3 files are down to like 1.5. And I thought, oh, that's good. That's not good. It's not our normal. And by the end of the day, I keep seeing new positions coming out.
We did have a problem at the beginning. You have to end the stream, unless you just clicked out.
Okay.
So, last week's stream is still up.
Oh, okay.
And that might have had something, yeah, I had to kill last week's stream to start this one, so there's something about this is all that right here.
Thank you, thank you.
My kid.
All right. But I have a question for you. Water thing coming up. Does Sahuarita want to be involved in it? A major study. Well, I'm going to find out who I need to talk to. I need to know who to talk to. Okay, so it's a Bureau of Reclamation. It's about, so we don't have to go to anything. I'm going to push it to the Sawa, and the town's going to be gradually so back. But actually, I want the town to have a paper signing the contract.
We're beginning about 1 minute.
I'll see her when. Well, unless she's at the lead.
Probably not.
She won't get it. Then she'll be at the Sawa. No. I've got to be at the elite. There's no chat. No, there's going to be food. At the elite. That's the kind of go with the town of school. This their gift.
Well, I was getting ready, but then I noticed our town attorney wasn't here, so it's probably better to wait.
Does that mean we have work for them then?
Well, it does. I'm afraid we want to go ahead. Okay.
Oh, they let them come back in.
Yeah. We're moving on to question number 5, which will be given by the Vice Mayor, and we'll be starting with Mr. Davis.
Okay. Mr. Davis, what are the 3 biggest issues facing the town that need to be addressed within the next 2 years, and how would you fund it? Yeah, I added that part.
I think infrastructure is something important. I know on the horizon there's issues, the sewer treatment, King County one up here, so looking at something like that. Community safety, I would argue that's top priority, is maintaining that community safety. I think the police department does a great job but that's critical to give them the tools necessary to continue that. We see stories around the country all the time, making sure those guys have the tools to make the community safe. Probably maintaining the economic growth. You know, the town square, keep pushing that forward. And I think that the economic growth is what's going to fund a lot of these things. I think if we can get some more businesses into the community, the tech park, I know looking for the tenants right now, I think that will drive it. The key is, I think, you know, if the town's not growing, it's not doing well. So we've got to keep folks coming in, bringing, you know, moving to Sarita, businesses coming here, that will generate the revenue, sales tax revenue. Getting more residents obviously gets us more on the state share revenue, which then funds continuing the police departments do an outstanding job. Continues the opportunity to look at the critical infrastructure that we're going to have to work on, the sewer plant, the roads, things like that. So those are kind of the three priorities. Interchangeable, because obviously, like I think as you said, there's no money, it's not good. So the economic development was obviously number one. It was better than the money, but then keeping the community safe, keeping the infrastructure in good shape, keeping the roads good, so I think are the top priorities.
And Vice Mayor, can I just piggyback since we're on the first question there? Everybody's mentioned the Salrita Square, and there's different funding models, you know, for that. So as we continue for this question, especially about how to pay for it, you know, there's the general fund. We could go out to ask the voters whether they want to tax themselves for that. So if at the conclusion of kind of the general of the top three, I'd like everybody to comment on what do you think is the potential for the different funding sources for the Salrita Square?
I did speak with the finance director on this a couple of weeks ago, and I think the opportunity for GO bonds, general obligation bonds, is there if there's public appetite, and obviously the research, the polling, and data needs to be found for that to support going out for bond, otherwise it's not powerful. And I think the town, the council, the staff have done a great job pushing the concept, so I think it would be fairly readily well received, which would then get the support of voters to go out and get some bonds. Barring that, obviously it's looking at other sources of revenue, whether it's grants, which are always very iffy, and that, but you know, looking as, not setting up the rainy day fund, but funding from the town. I know what the town is looking at is putting in the basic infrastructure, getting the sewer and utility hookups in place to then allow developers to come in and actually start the project, whether it's commercial. So you know, the first one would be the general obligation bonds. I think that would make the most sense, but it's got to be sold the right way to the community to vote for it. And I think the plus side of that is, if it's successful, if the vote is successful, that gives buy-in. That means, you know, things are good. You know, the town, the folks want it. So that would kind of be the number one, is look at that. If going down to this, obviously it gets a lot tougher. Just finding that money. You know, this is outside of normal spending for the town to be good.
Thank you.
Mr. Gall?
So I think, you know, roads and maintaining the roads we have is probably the biggest thing, so we don't end up in a position like lots of parts of Tucson in the county where they've neglected them for so long now, there's no way they can pay to fix them all. Sarita Square and the parks, you know, my understanding is Sarita Square is kind of a twofold thing. You've got the business part of it and the parks part of it, so you have a reason to draw people to that area. One of the things, and I don't know if this has been looked at, but the plan for the parks is a lot of different types of sports parks, baseball fields, soccer fields, those sorts of things. I know from my experience running the youth inline hockey group that the NHL and the Coyotes actually have a program where they will build rinks for places. And that caused me to look into it a little bit, and I realized that basically every pro league has some type of program like that. MLB has grants for cities to build baseball fields. The U.S. Soccer Federation has grants to build soccer fields. The NFL has grants to build football fields. So those are kind of things that we can look at specifically for those purposes, and maybe not pay quite so much. I think we spend a lot of money on subsidizing the wastewater treatment plant every year. We need to find a way to reduce that amount. Adding connections probably is the easiest way. That's obviously a huge issue, there's a lot of different parts to that, and I'm not gonna pretend like I know all the details that I should, but I look at, $3 or $4 million a year that we spend to subsidize that loss that we could spend on something else. That's a significant part of Cerritos Square right there. We have the lowest of all the municipalities in Pima County. We have the lowest sales tax, not by much, but a little bit. That's always an option if the residents are willing to raise that. I know in the past, and at least where I came from, people don't typically like that sort of thing, but if it's narrowly focused, Pima County doesn't have a very good reputation of spending those kind of things wisely, and unfortunately, we're in Pima County, so we inherit that. But I think if it's narrowly focused to one specific thing, like, hey, we're gonna do this just for Cerritos Square, just for a certain number of years, maybe the voters would be more willing to do that. And I agree, bonds are always an option if voters have the appetite for it. I think it's one of those things, it depends on how soon you want to get things done. I mean, we have a lot of things, there's a lot of plans in the works that, like I said, I'm excited for them to get done. Some of them are going to be done for years, years, years. It depends on how soon the community wants them and how soon they're willing to pay for it.
Marty? And then this is Maria.
Well, I think it's time to take the sword out of the stone. As King Arthur did, created a round table. And I've had this idea for a long time about bringing all the communities together. We have these commercials, these ads, this paper, new television, about every little community is better. Well, it's time to knit it all together and have people work together. There's so many grants out there, the Place 60 grants, the community block grants. We're big enough where we can get our communities together and work as one for the betterment of the whole town of Sahuarita. What are the priorities? What do we want? What do they want? Our kids go to school together, they play together on fields. We're severely underparked in Sahuarita. That's a big thing for me. I see the kids at school, and we want more kids to be involved. It teaches them how to cooperate and work with other people, with other, and take orders from their coaches and guidance. And it has to start there. We're the example for I'm not going to be here in 2035, but those kids will be. And what are we leaving for them? It's time that we get a group together, involve different community members in this group, and work on seeking grants. They're out there. There's tons of them out there. I know that sounds easy. It's not, and it takes a lot of work. And I think we can do it. I really do. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
So, I'm sorry, Marty, I didn't get, so we asked for the three biggest issues facing the
Oh,
town.
I'm sorry, we got leadership development, increased communication, and a constant flow of engagement. Those are the things that I think are important to keep this town on the right track. And that can be applied to roads, to our public services, to any facet of our town. We're communication without leadership development. How are we going to get more people to apply for council seats and board seats and commission seats if we don't lead by example and put it out there? Hey, we want to help you do this, and go into the pocket communities and say, hey, you want to be part of the group? Let's work together as a town and knit it together. I mean, King Arthur did it. He had a round table. Nobody was the lead, but we all have ideas, and if we put them together, we can pick this one and pick that one and put together a great plan. Sounds easy, but it's a lot of work. But there are many opportunities and funding sources out there that are yet to be tapped, and that involves creating just one person that does that or one group that does it. Then I think we're at the stage where we need to take that jump and do it.
Thank you.
May I get the question repeated, because I heard two
course.
or three?
What are the three biggest issues facing the town that need to be addressed within the next 2 years, and how would you fund it? And then the mayor tacked on specifically, how would you fund the town square?
Okay, so the first one I feel, is what we have in our backyard, breaking ground now before we use grant money, and that is the tech park. That's one of 3 priorities that I feel need to be addressed immediately. And how do we do that? Because we like to talk about big ideas, right? Everybody, has a vision, but how do we bring that vision to life? And the way you do it is, I talked before a little bit about the AZ Tech Council, so I'm going to elaborate a little bit more. But they have conduits to tons of programs that are out here in the state of Arizona right now. One specifically that comes to mind is a guy by the name of Steve Wozniak. He is one of the founders of Apple. He has something called the Wozniak University. And they are looking to expand and place these education hubs in tech-friendly areas throughout the state. And so, in order to start attracting business and industry, we will be able to bring in more money to address the other issues. And, he's willing to bring in that for the kids, for young adults. It's just about making the contact and actually bringing them down, inviting them to see what we have to offer. And that way we get some revenue flow, and we get our kids also educated in coding and programming and the wave of the future. The second thing I feel needs to be a priority of ours is annexation. Annexation, we all talk about it, but once again, how are we going to do it? I have fomented relationships not only on a local level but a state level where we should be inviting the state treasurer here, because that individual oversees what is the state land trust. And if we bring them down I would like to bring them down and let them know what we're planning to do and how we go about doing it, as opposed to just sending correspondence back and forth dealing with staff, because they must deal with staff or other individuals daily. Is bring them down, get the first-hand feel, the VIP treatment, and let's get that rolling. Annexation in itself will bring funding because of the property tax and everything else we plan on developing there. I would also look to the south and partnering and collaborating with Green Valley, seeing what their vision is and actually extend that bridge, make a bridge, build a bridge for the town of Sahuarita and Green Valley to bring in more income, more revenue. Guys, we have $34 billion worth of trade coming in from our Sonoran border. Okay, we get produce, we get toys, we get fuel, we get whatever we get from south. We need to find a way to capture it here and bring that revenue in. And so I feel that looking at that, capturing the trade would be a third issue for us, and making us more appealing, and providing all the partnerships that we need in order to be effective and raise that money. Also, another way to bring in money, I was, when I heard of rumors of bringing the National Pickleball Tournament here, that creates ungodly amounts of revenue, right? And so, why not? Why not convert the existing infrastructure we have temporarily into a pickleball court, help host the national tournament, and bring in some more money for the town? So there are tons of ideas, and so those are my 3, Vice Mayor Egbert and members of the council.
Did you touch, Sergio, on the town center or
How you would fund the town square?
Funding the Sahuarita Square.
Funding the Sahuarita Square. I'm not a fan of bonds. It's more taxation, more taxes. It's depending on the feel of the environment here in Sahuarita, the appetite of the residents. But as I said, bringing in those additional revenue streams will help fund our town square, just by capturing all the stuff that's getting away from us. So that's basically, in essence, bringing those ideas to help fund the bigger picture and the broader picture. And we also are privy to some rainy day money. Okay, we have some good amount of money in the rainy day fund that's specific for economic development or bigger visions that will help fund what we want to implement in the town. So.
And it's also important to understand that the town square is also linked to the Quail Creek Crossing Boulevard extension, the finishing of it. So, a couple of things that you've all mentioned that are very important for our future.
Thank you.
Myra, do you need me to repeat the question?
No.
Okay.
I'm gonna tackle the Sarita Square funding issue first. So I would bring in the experts. There are people out there that we can invite in to sit at the table and talk to us about different funding sources. I don't claim to know it all, and so I would say that would be one of the first things I would do is bring in the experts. I'm not opposed to bonds, a sales tax even. What I think we should do is part of our strategic plan would be doing the Sarita Square in stages. I think we've looked at that is part of the plan, but it's how we go about doing that is going to make a difference. So 3 areas that I feel are biggest issues right now in our town. The first one we've all talked about, and that's our growth. We are growing at a rapid pace. And so again, having that strategic plan of how to deal with our growth. And part of that growth is generating our revenue, bringing in the funds. So I alluded to the United States Environmental Protection Agency earlier when I said they support and have created a smart growth plan for towns just like us. So we can tap into that resource. We're already utilizing some of the strategic plan of this governmental agency. And just in 2018, they started awarding towns grants. So that's free money. So I do understand there's money out there for us. So smart growth, what is that? Again, I said we're already kind of utilizing some of that. It's linking our communities with having viable transportation, not getting mucked up and getting from point A to point B. And that takes planning, and we're doing that. So we need to continue on with that initiative. Taking advantage of when we build our Sarita Square, a compact building design. We all appreciate the beautiful area that we live in. So instead of going out too far, how about if we go up a little bit inside? Creating housing opportunities and choices for a range of household types, including everybody. We all appreciate in our community affordable housing. So that's an initiative that we can show this particular agency to get that grant money to our town. Those are just a few of those in reference to rapid growth. Another issue which doesn't cost us a thing is creating our identity. Mr. Gonzalez, when he talked to us about the Sarita Square, he mentioned that. We're still sort of lacking. We have some ideas, and our slogan is great. What does it say here? It says, "You're gonna love it here." But we need a little bit more meat to that identity, and we can do that with the stakeholders, with the people here in this room even. We've got a good representation. That's free. The third area, I think, is how are we going to continue to support the services that we currently have? And what I really do appreciate about our town government is that we do have to balance our budget. So in reference to that, I think we're on the right track, and I would say let's keep moving forward with those initiatives of funding what we already have. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Camp, or Ms. Camp,
Okay. The 3 biggest issues, in my opinion, that are probably needing addressing with Town of Sarita are actually underway. One certainly mentioned is growth, and specifically for me in my purview, I think this town has managed growth tremendously based on the numbers from 2000 to present. What I'm thinking one of the concerns might be is choosing that growth, choosing what it looks like, choosing what we want that is in alignment with the plan. That uniqueness for Sahuarita, we want to see that the growth is not the result of saying yes, perhaps, to anybody that wants to come here, but rather managing what we want and what we want to see and being a little more selective. And I'm not saying that you're not doing that right now. We have many fast food, beautiful facilities now, thank you. So more areas that makes us unique. I think we're well on our way with roadways. Certainly we have to have the funding to continue that. Our infrastructure is very nice. The communities are all, again, that pride and ownership, you see it wherever you go here in town. So growth being managed is significant in a town. It can cause a town to fail, or you can succeed, but you need to create, as Myra said, that uniqueness, that stamp, what's going to get people here first, and by managing how and where you select your persons, your companies, what you want in the district, it's going to matter what you put there, because people want to come to a place that it has something different and offers something different. And I think we should roll that in with, again, things like pickleball, cycling, hiking. There are so many active adults, and I think this is the pickleball capital of the nation, if you don't know already. Capitalize on that. So that's one of the items, growth. Again, managing it for exactly what your vision looks like versus saying yes to anything that will come in, because it does ultimately produce revenue, but it may not stay for long if it's not the appropriate venue for Sahuarita. The second issue, and I don't see it a lot from my purview, but growing small businesses. Those are the gold at the end of the line, and helping them grow their business, helping them bring other small businesses. So if they have a positive experience, then they are going to invite their partners and those stakeholders that they're conversing with nationally. They're going to bring them to town. So I know there are small business offerings here, and I know a few people that are in that, but I think, again, we go back to the money, that's a free service. You have thousands of brilliant people that live in this area. Why not capitalize on that volunteerism and have those people come and mentor some of these small businesses or provide some of the experiences? Again, I don't see it in the media. I don't see it stated in the council, so for me, it looks like it's something that I would want to work on. Another big issue is proactive land acquisition. Again, I know that there are state lands, and State Department has been active about releasing those. I know that the FICO is going to be releasing their property into the future, but it's really important when you have enough land to bring you through 10 years of your plan, what's going to happen in the next 20 years beyond that. And everything that you do in this immediate time frame is going to shape what it's going to look like down the road. So I would say be proactive, get out there, and get with the private sector and see how they can help you. There are so many private sector companies out there that are looking for a home. What a beautiful place to be. You have so much to offer them, from the activities to the parks to the safety factor. You've got Raytheon, as I said, right down the road, and I can tell you, having worked there, the commute Oh my goodness, it's red.
It's red.
That's what that noise was.
That was, you were the first one to get it. Congratulations, you're right. I think I would still like to know, I'm done.
Can I use that every meeting?
Mayor, I was wondering, Council, I know she passed her time, but I would like her to answer the Sarita Square question, and I don't believe Marty answered it either, and is that okay with the council if we have them both quickly tell us how they would fund Sarita Square?
Absolutely, and then I have a follow-up after that.
Okay.
Okay, funding the square. First, private sector. I would pull in anybody who has interest and have a nice roundtable discussion with those people, whether it be developers and or companies that are interested in creating Sahuarita as their base or their home for business, whether it be 20 miles up the road or not. It matters when they can tell employees that, hey, we've got this here, a wonderful place to live, and those people have dollars to spend. And if it draws employees for them, it's going to draw in revenue for you. Myra mentioned something that I was going to say. EPA has a lot of grant money out there for roadways, for towns that are trying to develop, trying to bring in access points. I am not opposed to, and I'm part of the CFD right now for Quail Creek, but I see it brings in a lot of dollars. So Rancho Sahuarita also has a similar CFD, so into the future I would certainly look to that as a funding source, because most people who have decided to live somewhere are going to have some form of revenue stream that's sort of taken. I think I've seen it in the 5 states that I've lived in. I have given to local communities through a CFD and CID, a lid, they call it different things in different places. So again, I don't want to increase taxes because cost of living is critical. You already have a housing, apartment, criticality, I'd say in Tucson, it's almost nearly unaffordable, and I don't want to see that for Sahuarita. So, and general fund comes from just everything that's going on. So do we have a surplus? Absolutely. But that rainy day fund needs to stay there for that rainy day fund. So we need to bring in other funding sources. So I'd certainly, that's a nice full-time equivalent job for somebody who will educate themselves and have the tenacity to go out and get those funding sources and bring them to your attention so that you can assess what it provides. Last thing, somebody else brought it up, the wastewater. I looked over the entire budget a couple of times. I'm really impressed with how it's laid out. It's very easy to follow, but I do question the $5 million subsidy. And I'd certainly like to see if there are alternate solutions. I know that the public was introduced to something last year, I can't remember specifically, regarding tying into and increasing the capacity on that wastewater plant. I think it's really important that we look at those dollars that we are losing and come up with a more affordable option. Thank you.
Serena? About Sarita Square.
I apologize. Vice Mayor, I had it written down too, about the community facilities district. It's a special taxing district that allows the financing of installation, operation, and maintenance of public improvements, and the purpose of constructing or acquiring public infrastructure. I think that would be a good mechanism for the square. There's also ideas about mixed use, like they have on, I believe it's Campbell and Park, where they have the business on the floor, and then going up, having some affordable apartments or whatever to help out on building a usable, walkable town square. I believe that's a good mechanism for us to look into and put into action.
Thank you.
And I just had a follow-up, because when you were talking about sort of the growth, and I was hearing that, sort of like we want to be picking losers and winners, from who you're allowing into the town. How do you envision who picks and how we pick? Because if we have, 2 pet stores, and then a third pet store wants to come in, and 4, and it's, a lot tied into personal property rights, and you've got multiple developers, to do that. So how would you envision sort of a structure that, we would say yes to this one or no to that one?
Well, I think right now you have placed out there a couple of surveys that have gone out to the community. And I think the community is pretty much telling you right now what they want to see. And that certainly should be a consideration for anything that proposes. I mean, we all have to make, somebody at the end of the day, I'm sure the mayor is one of those people, the decisions on what comes to town. But I think it needs to be very thoughtful versus maybe a quick process to ensure that we don't have too many of the same businesses whereby some are put out of business or they have to change their entire sales strategy because you can't have 4 on the same corner. So I think with reasonable discussion with the community and amongst yourselves, you can find a solution to be able to pick and choose. And certainly the more beautiful Sahuarita becomes, the more opportunity you are going to have to say yes or no. And I believe that's where you're leading right now.
And that we're to our 6th question, and because I piggyback off, I messed up. Because the last question was, talking about Sahuarita Square and the gathering place. Sounds like obviously a lot of people, or all of you, are in support of it, and how would you make it a reality? So so what I was thinking was, opening it up to questions. I did have sort of one curiosity question. Obviously, only 2 of you will get appointed. If it happens to be, 2 of you, do you have a thought about running for re-election? And I'll just start with Eric and work your way down.
So you're asking if I get appointed, would I run for re-election? Definitely. I wouldn't put this amount of time and effort into something that was only going to be for a year. It's something that I hadn't really thought about. I mean, I considered running for office back in Green Bay 15 years ago, but just time wasn't right, and that's a whole different mess back there. But this opportunity came up. It was at the right time. The more research I did, the more I decided that there was a lot of good going on here, and I wanted to be a part of it. But yeah, I would definitely run for re-election. I would plan on staying here for many years on the council if the voters would have me.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think, a lot of it comes down to timing, and obviously having a commitment to do a good job on the council, so definitely run for re-election when the time comes. But I think the reason for applying now is, kind of hit that sweet spot where semi-retired, enjoying life, and this community's been very good to me, and I think there's the opportunity to get back to it. I think that's something that, it's been good to me, and it's now time to pay back. I think to continue what's been going on.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm retired. I have time, there are things that I become passionate about, and again, finding Sahuarita was very happenstance for me, and I'm so happy that I was on my bicycle and drive down to here when I was, because I needed to see this, because we were looking for a place to retire. It's got so many wonderful things to it. So the next year will give us a wonderful opportunity to see how you operate, educate ourselves, create partnerships, and find out who the stakeholders are so that we can pursue the re-election.
Thank you.
Yes, I would definitely run for re-election. I believe, again, in developing those strong working relationships, be involved in the community, and that's what I've been doing. I've been getting to know our community, getting to know the community leaders, and I am ready for reelection. Let's get started.
Thank you. Sergio.
Mayor Murphy, Vice Mayor Egbert, members of the council, I see myself not only running for re-election and working my little tail off for the city of Sahuarita, but I will work my darnest to be up in the dais and sit in as mayor one day of the town of Sahuarita.
I know. It may not be good to say in an interview. No, it's fine.
We haven't finished with him yet, Sergio.
That's right.
You kind of like that.
Oh, thank you. Ms. Moreno.
Well, I'm not gonna lie, I would love to, be appointed and run for reelection. You don't use your brain, you lose it, and I feel I have a lot of brain left to use here.
Good. Any follow-up questions, additional questions from the council? Everything's been asked, everything's been answered. Okay, well, at this time, if, I'll, entertain a motion if the council chooses, the council would like, Mr. Marco?
No.
Oh, to go into executive session to further the discussion. And if we, let's do the vote, and then I'll have Mr. Hockley just say a few words. So at any time, I'll entertain a motion. Okay, do you have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're going to enter executive session. I'm not sure how long, but no one wants to go to bed here, so it shouldn't be, I don't think, very extended. But Mr. Hockley, if you wanted to just kind of, brief the crowd and our applicants what would be going on upstairs.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I believe almost everybody out in the audience has never been to an executive session. I know you have. And after some of the things that were said a week ago, the mayor thought it might be a good idea for me to let you all know. Arizona law requires all of the meetings to be held, all of their meetings to be held in public, so the public has a chance to see their government work. And there are 7 or 8, how embarrassing, 7 or 8 exceptions to that, where they can meet behind closed doors. A good example is if they're going to get legal advice, well, that's confidential, so they get to meet behind closed doors. One of them is for personnel issues like this. What I would like you to know is at the beginning of each one of those executive sessions, I'm required by law to remind them what happens at an executive session and what the requirements on them are. And since most of you have probably never been to one, you haven't heard this. They are required to keep everything that's said in the executive session private. They can't talk to anybody else about it, only themselves. So other council members can talk to other council members. They can't talk to their spouse. They can't talk to anybody. They're required to keep it secret. And the other big thing is they're not allowed to take legal action in an executive session. I think a lot of people think that they're about to go upstairs and decide who the candidates are going to be. They can't do that. Legal action is a collective decision, commitment, or promise. So they're not allowed to do that. So what they will typically do in executive sessions for personnel matters is they will discuss, but they don't really reach a consensus, take a straw poll. It's not like a jury where they walk in and say, okay, first, what are we all thinking? They will discuss. One of the things I tell them, the best way to avoid coming to a collective decision is to everybody speak your own opinion, but don't ask other people their opinions, because then it turns into a conversation where they're narrowing it down. And I also tell them about the punishments if they do violate the open meeting law. And then I stay in the room the entire time, and although I don't like to speak at council meetings, I'm pretty free about speaking up if they start to vary from the rules, and keep them on track and keep them away from making a decision. Mr. Mayor, how's that?
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. At this time, we'll move to executive session, and I've asked the town clerk and the town attorney to join us in there, and then hopefully we'll back so you guys can relax. And
Oh, so you stay here?
Yes, you stay here. Unless you don't want to go.
McDonald's is coming in at 2 o'clock tomorrow morning, and will be available for your service.
Wow. you know you made it. Exactly. That's the best.
Good work, man. Nice to meet you. Eddie? Yeah.
That's true. You know, there was a part where I knew an accident. And then I heard you guys. My torch on. Oh, yes. That was good. I heard you guys. Good idea. You're really not
Oh, he brought it. Sure. We can't. Yeah, that's what I thought. Cool. I haven't met you before.
You'd be concerned if you walked up.
I know. Right? Yeah, it's even worse. Stay away.
Yeah.
Eric thought it was Oliver side was looking at I believe that could be part of yeah. What is it? Bueno, Sergio,
¿cómo andas, hermano? You good? I gotta watch it again.
Ahora sí. Fine, we're just moving ahead on all these different projects and stuff. Water. Yeah.
Our world, Marquez Peterson is now very involved with this over there at the CA Commission. She's learning. She's learning curve of what a utility
Dan, I saw it.
Oh, Youth and Council, Corporation Commission has got to be they talk, oh God, you're talking electricity. I mean, you're really talking railroads, you're talking internet, and then you have like 400 plus itty bitty teeny pieces of crap water utilities and people complaining, and you have to set all the rates and everything, and you can't have them bankrupt. You know what they'll do? Yeah, well, I can fix that water. Go complain. Go complain to the Corporation Commission. We don't do much about some of these utilities. In fact, that's what happened with Johnson. And that was thousands of people.
I'm gonna get you Starbucks?
But frankly, my opinion though is that, well, the Corporation Commission is kind of supposed to be people. That's so close to people. Well, it's like, well, they know you know what's worse than this? School board.
Thank you.
I cannot imagine. Well, one that has more impact on human health than the school board. With their children. Their children's education, their future, and ruin their lives. And then there's the parents who throw the children out. And then there's the teachers who throw the parents out. Students who are like,
I know, then I'm going to work.
and you can sit there and these are sad stories, but how do you get positive about it? How do you get a win-win? Hi, baby. I was going to tell Sethfield that when I'm with you in public, I have 2 jobs.
Trying to relive. You did a good job.
Look sexy. And don't embarrass my wife.
That's right.
Well, he's doing pretty good.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you haven't paid attention. I don't know.
Talking about school board and I don't
You know what I think would have been better? Put you guys on that side.
So you can see our reaction.
And then have all of the council members just sit in this front row and if there was articles that said, you know, your question.
Or have the camera, you know, look at it.
Oh yeah, all we saw was that.
Yeah.
I'm just for the public, so take it. China. I'm going to go to my reunion. How's it going? How are you?
Representative Gavaldon, you're running for Senate?
I am in 2020. Yeah, I turned out at the House.
I've been running to be winning. Yay!
Are you swapping with Andrea?
Yeah, she turned out at the Senate.
Cool.
Yeah, and again, she's running for the House.
Yes, I have 2 jobs.
I've always supported my representative.
Thank you. Oh, well, thank you for saying that. I like that.
An endorsement?
I don't know.
From me, it'll hurt you.
No, you know, thank you very much for it. I appreciate it. Well, please go on your family trip. That both of them let you do. I really appreciate it. But then my third ask is, I'm looking for your campaign contributions. Would you be open to giving me a campaign contribution? I'm running traditional. Yes, sir.
Really?
Yes, I am. Yes, sir. So think about that. Think about that, and you know, digest that, and if you'd like to,
Find it in your heart. Welcome to the world.
Actually, I guess it's right. Anybody that's a registered voter in the District 2 can contribute $5 to a candidate's running thing. So, Republican, Democrat, Independent, anybody else registered.
You just can't sign a petition.
You just can't sign it.
Really?
You can give them money.
No wonder we're so dumb.
How do you explain that one?
Oh, no, I think when she was doing the 5, she always got more than a quarter of it.
Yeah, plus,
For ours.
I think that just goes with the, well, whatever that.
Not the petition, just for fun.
Just the 5. Any candidate you know, except for LDC, but I'm talking statewide, any candidate you want. I've given two candidates statewide.
Yeah. You should have.
Yeah, were you running? But you're running for
Oh, you're CD3. Oh. That is hard.
But see, you're good practice. You can see practice it.
She doesn't care what she knows. Mexicano.
So you're running for district?
Well, we were up here.
You tried, but you didn't do it. No matter what happened, you did it. You jumped in.
And actually, there was a gentleman that Secretary of State, that is, so I do have a gentleman.
Yeah, his name is, Walker or something.
Work.
Yeah.
Up on the, oh, you don't know.
Sí, up on the thing.
Is it?
That's not gonna be.
No.
I introduced myself and, you know. It's my time. But
I invited him to the NRC meeting. Over at the chamber.
You need people to be involved.
Oh, I do have an idea. I was talking to
Is your field council?
No, when we get on council? No, I'm serious. I'm not joking. Nobody needs to know, but you know about that?
At the gender.
I gotta say, no, at the match. You put, you know, at the station, they have a glass. They did bulletproof the thing. Only the glass. Yes.
Yeah, someone called him thank you and he got Yeah.
Was it me?
So we made the right. That's good. They might be brother. Come on. Don't forget it.
No, I think so. But you know,
tell me what I missed on the phone. What can I elaborate?
No, I don't think
I wanted to see conflict and
it didn't matter. I mean, they're all on. That's slavery. Let's say you're at school. How are you? Correct. You gotta bring it in. That's why I'm harping on
I'm gonna get the case level and don't have to try and chase these guys all down.
I know he has.
Come on, man.
Yeah,
if you're going to do a night like this, music turn like this. Hi, I'm Arturo. There. Yep.
pleasure.
Hi,
Is this your daughter, granddaughter? Beautiful. So how do you feel being out there? It wasn't bad.
Can I get you too?
You want me to take one of you too?
Oh no, I gotta get like some stuff so that way whoever does get a point. Just me to be better, this way, you know.
You're selling it. Well, good luck. If you get it, I can. My wife was my recommendation is the town council is
The retail price,
Part of it is
because we're she's up there, comes back on her Thursday. Yeah, but don't get me wrong. And then I'm
Sure. Yeah. I don't want to be part of that. I don't want to stop that.
You know, I miss you.
When you get notice, you did it, all right?
Early start.
I'm used to seeing houses right now. We don't learn how to.
Remember the zoning board?
I can't imagine.
You can even flip it right.
Nobody.
I don't think she'll ever go back.
Nobody. There's nobody represents the same people.
That's what I
I mean, they're all from the
Is she gonna decide this?
and they all have to
Jackie already arrived for some items.
I know,
Sal's on her way. Not, that's not.
No, she's
locked.
and I'm really honestly, you guys don't anytime you want to, go up to her, just call her assistant, and she'll arrange, you can arrange some number calls, and you can see them, and, I mean, my son here,
She actually did it.
wonderful.
Learning about
Well, go during regular session, and be there at 3 o'clock in the morning when they're doing the budget talk.
Yeah, I don't think
Real excitement. Remember, don't want to know how far. Don't want to know how long. But no, go during regular session, and please invite callers.
Okay, then we'll pass. There you go. All right.
Then,
Stand for it. Good work.
well, don't say that. She said okay. I don't tell her. I don't tell her that I can't do it. Then, so sometimes, yeah, I can put it onto the TV, right? There's one guy standing there that's like 3:30. Simon has no sense of humor. After doing a pub for 48 hours, and I'm 40. serious. And, oh, right, there was a 2-hour break. That's it. Just enough time to go home, shower, or something. So there she was in bed. And I, the sun was peeking so that no. Don't ask me. I won't do it. But he was not affirmative about it.
I didn't see that. You were talking more, you were tired.
They get out at 8 o'clock in the morning, they get back to $3 less than their time.
That's why a lot of the people that live here.
You did what? I know you were out of session. We were moving Lauren into a we both got out the car and the same time we're like, Mom and Maria. And that's not allowed that much. Really good. I forgot to tell you guys about the intro, so I'm glad you did that. I wrote about the comic, and I used to take off from it. Well, she's on the committee for roads. All the funding now is being funded over the where the big governor pushed all the money. But many of them are trying. So the especially because of the number of this particular corridor. There, you know, and believe me, she works on both sides. I'll be honest. It's not about split. Of a lot of billions of dollars.
Well, I'm off on Sunday now,
But you know, the thing is important. There's one idea that I heard clearly that I'm on the economic development.
So I'm on my notes, and I'm off on Sunday. And then 3 months,
the suggestion was
I do, I share people on that walk over here.
Use stations in Sullivan that all the paperwork would be processed, submitted. There's a specific amount of time as they're going to the system, everything is processed. But now they go all the way to the border, submit all the paperwork, sit and wait. Why is it waiting there? I mean, they can submit. And then they can like spray everything. All right, well, good luck, good luck. All right, you're fine, good to meet you.
Good luck after each part. Thanks for throwing myself for you. Yes. I go right away. Right on the way. Yeah.
I can't tell you.
Oh, you know, seniors can be
the dog is not
I still.
You should have hit me up. That's what I was telling you, man. Came out to Del right here, man. I never saw this thing done. I can only put up with the rain.
Oh, no. You guys, you probably have already had dinner. He brought me dinner. I tried to have lunch. Well, it was good. I had a good you know, vegan, you're always starving anyway. You're really hangry. Up to the top.
Well, some people
Yeah.
Oh, you're still here?
Yeah, we're waiting for our big dog.
You Scotty. How about call
At this time, I'll entertain a motion to re-enter regular session.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're back in regular session, and we're moving on to item number 11. Madam Clerk.
Discussion and possible action appointing 2 council members to fill the vacancies caused by the resignations of Lynn Skelton and Dahlia Zimmerman, who will serve until the council meeting at which the candidates of the 2020 general election is approved, or if all council members were elected at the 2020 primary election, then at the first council meeting following the date of the 2020 general election.
Thank you. And, well, first of all, you didn't make this easy, so I appreciate that. As we had said earlier, only 2 of you will go through, but I hope all of you were serious that if either selected or not, that you continue to stay involved. And I'll just have our town attorney, we're going to just explain a little bit of how the process, we're going to take them separately, because there's 2 openings. And Mr. Hartley, do you want to just say a couple words on how the process works?
Do you want to let any other council members speak before we actually get to the
Absolutely.
nomination?
Yeah, no.
I didn't know if there's anybody else. I want to say that we couldn't go wrong on any of you. Like, really spectacular interviewing tonight. Really got us a difficult decision tonight and discussion. I want to thank my council members for appointing you guys to be interviewed, because they each did a great job in their appointments, and the decision tonight will be difficult for me. because I'm not sure who I'm going to vote for yet. It's gonna be tough. So thank you for coming out, thank you for your passion to the community, and to serving, so I appreciate it.
Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, I want to echo those sentiments. You get a great group of people. I mean, we can't go wrong anywhere. But only two of you will get the $1 million at the end.
That's right.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I guess this process has been unique to the town, especially, specifically to this council, with so many candidates to begin, and I see several of them back out in the audience again, and I thank you guys for coming back. There was a lot of homework involved in this, and you know, there's a lot of deliberation and talk up here, and I just, you know, after last week, I went back and I reread the applications again, and not just of U6, but the others too. It was difficult, and so I think just the narrowing down last week and then this week again, it's great to see that we have, you know, competent, willing people in our community that want to come and serve our community more. So again, thank you, and thank you for the other candidates that came back and that weren't sitting up here with the 6, but thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I think it's all been said. I always kind of like to iterate and go again and say thank you for your participation. It's been great stuff. We've done a lot of homework on you, as has been said. I want to say with regret that the money that you all have provided me has not gone to any vote tonight because it simply wasn't enough. I'm sorry. But no matter what happens, I hope those of you not selected will choose to run, because this town needs the talent that you all represent, and the town deserves it. And we hope to see you all involved either tonight or tomorrow or next week or next month or next year. So please don't forget us.
And for the record, for a shaking of the heads, no one gave him any money, right? I really want to put that out.
Oh, come on, let's go out there and see what happens.
I've known him too long to give him any money.
Yeah, absolutely. At this time, thanks for all the comments. I was going to sort of jest that I was going to make a motion to make a council of 11 people, but I got shot down. That would be the easy way to do it. At this time, Mr. Hockley and/or Lisa, do you want to just kind of roll out how we will be doing this?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and members of the public and candidates, this is the procedure you're following is not typical what most of you are used to seeing. This will not be a motion to appoint so-and-so and a second and a vote. The process we're following is in Sarasota Town Code Section 2.10.010, and it's the way the council selects the mayor and the vice mayor every 2 years. We will follow this process twice, once for each of the seats. Each council member, the clerk will call random council member names, one by one. Each council member, they nominate up to one candidate to fill the first vacancy. After all 5 council members have had an opportunity to nominate a candidate, those nominated will be considered the slate of candidates. So if 3 people got nominations, we got a slate of 3. Thereafter, by a roll call vote, each council member will vote for one person, a random roll call vote. Each person will vote for one of the people on the slate of candidates. The candidate who receives the affirmative vote of at least 3 council members will be appointed to fill the vacancy. In the event that the slate is large enough that no candidate gets 3 votes, then the person or persons with the lowest number of votes will go off the slate and will go through the council again. Once the first candidate is selected, we'll go through the same process again to select the second candidate. Mr. Mayor?
What was that? Thank you, it was great. Do all of you have any questions?
Mine was, what the hell did he just say?
That was took the most time upstairs, we had to re-explain it on there. So at this time, Madam Clerk, and this is as a reminder for one of the 2.
And I wanted to point out that if one of the council members pass and not say anything, it means that they are agreeing with another name out there. They're not giving up their right to nominate, they're just saying the person they want has already been named. I don't know if that was made.
Possibly. And I I'm sorry, and then one more thing. Lisa did, the town clerk is going to do a random call on us for that nominee, and then there'll be a random call for the vote of the council, so it'll be 2 random votes. Sorry, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Hicks.
Marty Moreno.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Marty Moreno.
Marty Moreno.
Councilmember Lusk.
Myra?
Myra.
Myra.
McHugh.
McCune. Mayor Murphy.
Sergio Ariano.
Councilmember Braca.
Pass.
Vice Mayor Egbert.
Simon Davis.
Our slate of candidates is Marty Moreno, Marty McCune, Myra McCune, Sergio Ariano, and Simon Davis. Now to the vote. Councilmember Braca.
Sergio.
Councilmember Lusk.
Myra?
Mayor Murphy.
Marty.
Vice Mayor Egbert.
Davis.
Councilmember Hicks.
Simon Davis.
So we have 2 for Davis, 1 for Moreno, 1 for McCune, and 1 for Ariano.
I'm sorry, Tom, can you please repeat that again?
Absolutely. 2 for Davis, 1 for Moreno, 1 for McCune, and 1 for Ariano.
Mr. Mayor, that's a contingency I didn't explain, since we have a 3-way tie for second place. I would recommend that you do what the town code provides you would do in this eventuality for an election of the mayor, and that is same names, new vote.
Okay. Madam Town Clerk.
So the slate of candidates is Moreno, McCune, Ariano, and Davis. Councilmember Hicks.
Simon Davis.
Councilmember Braca.
Sergio.
Mayor Murphy.
Sergio.
Vice Mayor Egbert.
Davis.
Councilmember Lusk.
Davis.
The vote is Davis 3, Mr. Ariano 2.
Congratulations, Mr. Davis. You have the first applicant or first nominee. Congratulations. Now, obviously, Mr. Davis is removed from the submittal, so we will start on our second vote for the second position. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Hicks.
3 times I got to go first. Mr. Dahl.
Councilmember Braca.
Sergio.
Mayor Murphy.
Mr. Dahl. Oh, I'm sorry. Pass.
Councilmember Egbert. Oh, I'm sorry, Vice Mayor Egbert.
Pass.
Councilmember Lusk.
Myra?
The slate of candidates are Mr. Dahl, Mr. Ariano, and Ms. McCune. Councilmember Lusk.
Myra?
Councilmember Braca.
Sergio.
Councilmember Hicks.
Dahl.
Vice Mayor Egbert.
Dahl.
Mayor Murphy.
Sergio.
So the vote was 1 for McCune, 2 for Ariano, and 2 for Dahl. Did
So,
you
go ahead.
want me to make an announcement?
Yes.
Okay. In this particular instance, I believe the correct procedure would be to drop off McCune and narrow the slate to Mr. Dahl and Mr. Ariano, and vote again.
Mr. Mayor, I agree.
Yes, I agree. Proceed, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Murphy,
Sergio?
Councilmember Bracco,
Sergio.
Councilmember Lusk,
Dahl?
Councilmember Hicks,
Dahl.
Vice Mayor Egbert, Dahl. The vote is Mr. Ariano 2, Mr. Dahl 3.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Mr. Dahl. For the folks that were selected, the town manager and town clerk will be reaching out to you and helping you prepare, because you'll be sworn in before the meeting on Monday night, next Monday night. So you're just gonna keep coming back on Monday nights. And immediately after that, you'll be seated on the council, so they're gonna work with you to give you, we have some proclamations, it's not a really heavy agenda, but they wanted to make sure you're prepared so you can actually, participate in voting process. And for the other candidates, I really appreciate all of your efforts and your willingness to serve, continue to serve, hopefully, because 5 of the 7 are going to be up for re-election with a blink of the eye.
Thank you. That was not easy. The last 2 weeks have not been easy.
Having no more public business, we're adjourned.
Yes. Thank you.